up, everybody? To the folks across the land, welcome to the first 80s in April, right here on Back to Classic, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago and beyond. On we're on Pandora, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on iHeartRadio. We're wherever you get your podcast at. Don't forget to download the Beat Network Amazon app and, of course, BeatNetworkOnline.com. I'm your guy, Jay Alonso, with me. He's back! My dude is back!
The return of the Mac! The return... No, it's just me. It's just Danger Neff. What's going on, brother?
How back and back rhymes, but yeah, I feel you, though. What's up, man?
What up? I'm back. It's been a month. You know, it's been a month since I've been involved with anything beat related. You guys ruined my group. Like, nobody was added, like, at all. In fact, I saw that we lost a person. What's up with that? What happened?
Water is wet. I can't tell you.
Water is wet.
I have no idea. But no, it's been a ride because you haven't really took an actual vacation, right? But having you gone and going back to the time when I didn't have you at all, when I was kind of steering the ship by myself and having to find a guest every episode, it's cool to do. It's grueling as shit. So,
especially when you just don't know. When you don't know.
It's grueling as shit. Like it's hey bro, you busy on Friday? No? Monday? No?
Yeah.
Before we die. Cool? Yeah. So yeah, it was challenging, but shout out to everybody who were the guest hosts for last month, including Anika Hunt, including Brendan Stevens, Marcus, everybody. We had a blast last month. But now Danger Neff is back, and we have a centerfolk joining the show for the first time. An avid movie fan, very active in the Back to Classic Movie Talk group. Make some noise for Octavio Martinez Jr., or AKA Doc Ock. What up, man?
Hey, man, thank you for having me in the show. I'm actually pretty excited to be here.
Right on, man. Welcome. Well, Dave, where do we start?
Well, let's talk about Doc Ock here for a second real quick. You've been a member of the group for a little bit now, for at least a couple of months. I could look you up, but I feel like that's stalking a little bit, so I don't necessarily want to do that.
It's a little bit.
A little bit, right? Just a little bit. Let's talk about this. You've been a huge movie fan. This was a movie that you actually chose. Why did you choose this movie?
Well, the movie that I chose was Back to the Future. Now, Back to the Future has been a part of my start of my fandom since I was probably about 2 to 3 years old. That was one of the first movies I saw, and ever since then, I became hooked watching that movie. It had a great story. It had a cool car. It talks about time traveling. That is actually one of the fandoms that I really got into before I hit 10. Back to the Future, the Ghostbusters, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those were the three biggest fandoms I had before I hit 10. Star Wars came in when I was 10, and the rest is history. But Back to the Future has a very special place in my life. I've had almost the whole entire VHS collection, the DVD, both full and widescreen, the 25th anniversary edition, Blu-ray, 30th anniversary. I'm trying to get the 35th anniversary on 4K. And a friend of mine, hold on just a second, gave me a very rare blue laser disc sealed of Back to the Future.
That's a laser disc?
That's a laser.
Yes, that's a laser disc, and it's in an album cover. And she gave it to me for Christmas. I thought this was one of the greatest gifts she's ever given me. So she's also searching for the other two that are like factory sealed. And I hung it up in my wall ever since.
So I have to ask. So, most people don't know, but the inspiration for this exact show came from Back to the Future.
That's right.
From the font to the overall narrative of what we do here on the show. So when you knew that there was a show called Back to the Classics, and even our logo is kind of Back to the Futurist, and of course you get onto an episode of this show and you're covering Back to the Future, you gotta be creaming in your pants. Like, you gotta be beyond excited at this point. Please tell me, share your excitement with me, please. I need to know how excited you are to talk about this movie.
You don't need to tell us how you're creaming in your pants.
I mean, leave that part up. I'm just kind of just getting to the brass tacks of things.
I have goosebumps. So that's close enough.
Definitely. Let's move on. Let's move forward. Let's get into some movie news that we had to cover. You know what? Let's get the negativity out of the way before we cover the positivity. So some bitches, that's why I'm going to call you guys, decide to review bomb Godzilla vs. King Kong, which drops tomorrow. It doesn't. It's not even technically out. I mean,
pause. Perfect segue. By the time this show comes out, you would have joined us for a watch party, our first watch party for Godzilla vs. Kong, going down on Wednesday at 8 p.m. You'll hear about it come the weekend by the time the show drops. But
previous watch party. Why don't you tell them about the watch party they're going to watch later that day?
Well, you do that. That's you doing that. I'm going tomorrow. You do the weekend.
All right, fair enough. But let's talk about these review bombers real quick. And I never understood this. Like I get it if you don't like a certain movie, you don't like a certain movie, and you can give a review for it, and then that gives it's whatever, right? It disrupts its certifiably fresh, if that's what you really want to do. But what's the end play here? Like, what were they like? What was the goal for Godzilla versus King Kong? Jay, what you got?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. When I had initially heard about this story, I found it funny, like comical for sure. But it's when you dive deeper into it and you realize, like, you are review bombing a movie, one, you haven't seen yet. And then two, because another movie that you really like, or a universe that you enjoyed, you got confirmation that it's not going to continue anymore. So as the big fuck you to Warner Brothers, they're doing this to shut down Godzilla vs. Kong while one movie has nothing to do with the other. So you look at it almost like, oh, y'all are just nerds. Y'all are just geeky ass nerds who have this real kid-like complex to where if you don't get what you want, you're going to pitch a fit, which is weird because why would you choose Godzilla vs. Kong, something that's been pushed back as well, like a Zack Snyder's Justice League, been pushed back to where now we finally get it. Why would you shit on that when that has nothing to do with this?
I know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Doc Ock, what you got?
It's just I hear this so many times or see so many reviews on certain movies. They just start bashing this film for no apparent reason, and somehow it's always linked to another film, and it's just like because one film is so enjoyable and it's not related to another film, although they probably have the same studio production, and they just say, can you just screw that and just concentrate on this film or this franchise more? And it's, I don't know, I've seen this in any type of media, and it's insane. Like when Wonder Woman 84 came out, I actually liked the film, and then I just started hearing people just trashing it. I'll admit I liked 84. Yeah. And then they just started talking about other Marvel films, and I'm like, okay. And my 2 cents is like, when you've been spoiled enough, you just start coming out and just start bashing another film. Look, I'm excited to see Godzilla and King Kong. I know the film is going to be great. I just want to just leave certain films out of it if you haven't seen it. you know. So yeah, I just hope that this section is never going to stop. Like one particular movie that's going to come out, and then they're going to start bashing it before you see it. So,
well, I agree with you 100%, and especially with, it's not just DC that has fandoms like these. Like Marvel fans are nuts.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones fans are insane. So it just,
Oh.
when you have this insane fan base that are just relentless. Like, if you don't get what you want, you're gonna lose it. Now, do I partly blame Warner Brothers? Absolutely, because without fully being invested to the culture that you provide to, you should have known, and off of the hype off of Justice League and how greatly it was received. Don't let your follow up thing be, well, that's it. I would kind of hold off on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you gave them a possibility to be like, well, maybe they will continue it. Well, if you're not going to do it, say you're not going to do it, but wait until the smoke kind of cooled down. You wait until this shit was red hot burning. Be like, well, you like that one? That's all you're going to get. Keep moving. That's where the pissed off reaction comes from. Because, like, you give us this thing that we want so bad, and I'm really playing devil's advocate at this point. You give us something that we want so bad, and we finally get it, and it's everything we imagined it would be. You know what I'm saying? But just for you to say, well, all right, Zack Snyder, you do your thing. We're done with this. Because mind you, Warner Brothers made no money off this movie. They didn't make a dime off this shit. They put more money into it, in return, lose more money unless you put out over 4K or whatever. But prior to that, it was we heard your cries, we heard your pleas for it. We finally gave it to you. We paid for it. We paid Zach for it. The whole nine. We finally give you something that you've been begging for since the first movie. Well, you should be saying, thank you, man. We appreciate that. Instead, no, I want more. And freedom and all that shit. It's like, it makes no sense, but it is a good segue.
Right. Well, the good thing about it now is that I'm hearing that HBO Max wants to keep the Zack Snyder verse intact still. So I guess that if they want, they want to still do some projects with Zack Snyder. So I'm kind of interested about that. So hopefully, if it's like the green lit, if we could still have another Ben Affleck film as Batman, I'm just curious what HBO Max is going to do for Zack Snyder.
Well, I think there's a couple reasons for that. And Jay, I think your counter argument does hold a little bit of water. When it comes to real quick, my 2 cents on this, when it comes to trying to figure out what is going to happen to the Snyderverse and if anything's going to happen. Mind you, I actually really enjoyed Snyderverse Justice League. I watched it twice. That is probably the maximum I'm going to watch it though.
Yes, I've seen it twice, and I'm like, I think I'm good.
Yeah,
I think I'm all right.
I could probably watch it once every other year. It's just a fact that it's a 4-hour movie. That's the only reason why I can't watch it as frequently as other people do. But that being said, I don't agree with fans bombing another product without knowing what that other product is, just because you're not getting what you want. But Doc Ock, you bring up a good point with what HBO Max is going to do. Well, HBO Max is losing a lot of its contracts by 2022. What I mean by that is these contracts that you have with the theaters that are basically turning into, you get the early release now along with it. HBO Max is losing all that access in 2022. I think the end of 2022. And that's all going to be turned over back to Paramount. So that is going to be another notch in the belt for Paramount and the guns that they're basically bringing into the fight. So HBO Max needs to do something. Do I think that Snyderverse, where we're talking a solo Batman movie, a solo, probably a solo Flash, or even a solo Cyborg movie, as well as Justice League 2 and 3, that Zack Snyder's going to be all involved is going to happen? I don't think so. Partly because we're already talking about a movie that technically is 5 years old. So to suddenly believe that we're going to suddenly build this whole huge universe out of it, I don't see it happening. I absolutely see something completely different happening with him, where if there's another passion project that he may be interested into, that he gets involved with that. But that's kind of my 2 cents on this. But
I agree. I feel like that the Snyder Justice League was kind of his way of bidding farewell to DC, because he finished what he originally set out to do. It got amazing response to it. Like me, bro, I've watched it twice. I'm quite sure I won't watch it a third time. But but it's the things that was supposed to be against it. He won for it. Like it's 4 hours long. It's 4 hours, fucking 4 hours long. You watched every minute of it, and you loved it. It's the same movie from 5 years ago, but just better told. It just wraps up way better. It's a better movie, and it is. But this is his way of saying, you know what? I think we're good. But to keep in the DC universe, we are swinging over to Dave's hilarious reaction to the Suicide Squad trailer.
So real quick, because that was a good segue. But one thing I wanted to bring up with this with the Suicide Squad trailer, and before we talk about that, this is kind of something that might actually happen with Snyder. So remember, James Gunn at a certain point, maybe about a year and a half ago, was the no name. He was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy. He wasn't allowed to do Guardians ever again. And then more information came out, but Gunn decided to play his cards, right? And
play them well.
And he decided to say, you know what? Fine. You don't want me? I'll go to DC and I'll make a good product. And that product potentially is this Suicide Squad trailer, which was funny and dark and CGI filled worth of everything.
It's James Gunn goodness, man.
It was James Gunn Guardians is what it felt like. I mean, DC version of James Gunn Guardians.
It felt like, to me, this trailer, I've seen the movie yet. The trailer felt like, to me, that last one was just like, you know what? We fucked that up. Let's try this again. Because now seeing a trailer to it, who better to do a Suicide Squad movie? Who better to take a product that's not knowledgeable by most people, with characters that you don't really know about or heard of, unless you're really deep into this thing, like a Guardians of the Galaxy. I have no idea who the fuck they were until I saw the movie. Now I love them.
Yes.
Who better to do that than James Gunn? Seriously.
No.
And Fedor.
You bring up really solid points, and I think at this point Harley Quinn is pretty established. You pretty much know what you're going to get.
Margot's Harley.
You know what you're going to get out of that. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to throw anything under the bus. I think she is perfectly casted, and I think she gives a fine performance. But I also never believe that Harley Quinn could just lead this whole huge thing, because so many people can't relate to her. And if people can relate to her, then you don't want to know those people. Yo, bro, yo, sis, I'm good. You can step off this F train.
Calm down. I need you to calm all the way down.
But in all seriousness, you're right. Gunn kind of got the short end of the stick with Marvel, and now Marvel was kind of paying for it. And initially, when the reaction was he was going to do the Suicide Squad, everybody hated the idea. They were like, "Oh, that garbage movie," and it is a garbage movie. But now that we see this trailer, you're kind of like, you know what? This may really turn into something. If that's the case, Snyder should do something similar. Maybe not with Marvel, but maybe Sony Movie Universe, which was a thing that I was really hitting on a year ago when they were talking about dropping Venom, Let There Be Carnage, when they were talking about dropping Morbius, when there were talks of doing a Black Cat and Silver Sable movie. Why not Snyder now move his attention a little bit to a different universe that could probably use something a little bit darker? Can you imagine a Snyder movie with Venom? Actual Venom? That is.
Can you imagine a Snyder movie with Blade?
Ooh, that caught my attention.
A lot.
Man,
Doc Ock, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, James Gunn, I think, is a very brilliant director, producer, and writer. Now, for going to DC, that's kind of not is his territory. Trying to, sorry, I'm trying to get the right words out.
oh no, I'm laughing at Dave.
No, I'm fucking with you at this point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he's James Gunn was always been a Marvel guy, but after like some allegations they had, the previous years that he joked about on Twitter, that's what let him go in Marvel because I guess they didn't tolerate behavior like that. So exactly, air quotes.
They say.
You're right, but seeing James Gunn putting in Suicide Squad, it fits him so perfectly because he was known for that rebellious outcast that he had in, for Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that they gave it an R rating, I'm like, oh my God, James Gunn kind of turned it up a notch of his humor and his action, and his creative, his creativity. Not to mention, you got to have a great cast. Of course, you got Margot Robbie back as Harley Quinn. And then I see John Cena, WWE legend, in there, and then Peter Capaldi, who was the 12th Doctor in Doctor Who, and then we got Sylvester Stallone.
They got Merle from Walking Dead. Yeah. They got Stallone.
I can tell you something though. I know one of the things that truly does stand out to me, even with like the obvious change from Will Smith's Deadshot to Idris Elba's Bloodsport, right? He just fits this movie way better than Will Smith could. It just feels more along like this makes sense. The last one didn't make sense. And to touch on what you said about James Gunn, I've read, and I'm sure it's true. Kevin Feige tried to fight for Gunn, and like this is not a big deal. It's all good years ago, but Disney was like adamant Gunn had to go. I can bet $100 on it right now. If you show me a video inside of Bob Iger or whoever is overseeing Marvel or Disney movies as a whole, when the news came out that Gunn was doing the Suicide Squad, somebody had to say, "You stupid son of a bitch!
Mm-hmm.
you just let $1 billion walk out the door. You stupid son of a bitch!" Now you might go to DC and make them eat. They're gonna eat over there off that shit.
No, and they should. They really
absolutely.
That's a problem.
Absolutely.
That's a problem. That's a problem I've always kind of had with Marvel. Like, they threw out so many names, and I'm of the opinion of this, honestly, with Marvel movies. I enjoy Marvel movies. I know I hear Scorsese's little example when he said that they're not necessarily cinema. They're cinema, but they're not the kind of cinema that really provides a lot of creativity, because you're for the most part you just kind of rehash what comes out of comic books. Just people wanted to see them on screen, right? Which is no different than what people do with books. Just you sometimes get a lot of good creativity when you take certain liberties with books. But when it comes to Marvel movies, like IGN had a post out there. They're like, "What's the best comic book movie of all time?" Right? They just did this. It was a bracket fight, and they just did this. And the top two, the final two, is literally Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which, okay, I can get that because it is super comic booky, which I'm fine with, and fucking Endgame. And I have a problem with that because Endgame to me isn't even like top 5 Marvel movie for me. They may not even be top 10. Like if I really, really, really think about it,
Endgame was a good time, but it's just like,
yeah, no, Endgame was okay, but I wouldn't say it would be in the top 5.
It may be at top 10, and it may be on my lower end spectrum of that. But people like hype up Marvel so much, and I'm like, like, did you guys see the Snyder cut? Like, because that was a better movie than Endgame in my eyes. Don't get me wrong, long as shit, and even Snyder wanted it to be 2 movies, but it was a better overall product from what I saw. It's just Endgame had the bigger emotional moments.
Right. Yes.
Endgame had the emotional moments in there, but in terms of a movie as a whole, like it was clear cut the direction from there, and I was excited to see what was going to happen afterwards. Even if you don't add the 20-minute epilogue that comes afterwards, which I kind of have a problem with the 20-minute epilogue also, but it's you add all that, and that is and Jay, you hit up a good point. Like everybody trusts so much into Feige and his vision, and I'm all for that. But you mean to tell me that there's not another guy out there that can't do what Zack Snyder did? And if there is another guy, first person I think of is usually James Gunn or Christopher Nolan. But guess what? Nolan's comic book movies would be too realistic for people to enjoy over a long time.
You talk about long.
Jesus.
I love the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh God, it's long. Like and I feel the same way about
give Nolan an X-Men movie and you would hate his guts.
Why is this 5 hours long? For what? Why? Like the Snyder cut for me.
Forwards and backwards. Like why are we talking about that? Like, why are you giving me a physics equation right now?
Why are things going backwards, Nolan? I don't need this.
I was watching sports.
Why is time a thing here? No, like for me, dude, I appreciated the 4 hours for the Snyder cut. I really did. But if don't forget, I also said that I was gonna give it an hour of my time, and if I like it, we could talk about pending more time soon. I popped it on. I had watched the whole thing, right? But by the time you reach that end of the movie, even with the epilogue or the prologue rather, or whichever, when you get there,
promo, right? That's what it is. It's an epilogue promo.
by the time we get there, it's like, okay, dude, listen, I don't really care. Let's just wrap this up. It's great. It's just I'm tired, bro. I'm tired, bro. That's all it is. You know what I mean?
On my Welcome Back episode, we've spent a lot of time kind of talking about movie news. How about we get into this movie?
Let's get into it today, man. So we got Doc Ock in the building.
Be here, man. Let's talk about it.
We got Doc Ock in the building. Once again, this is the movie that inspired the show. It inspired the show. So Doc Ock, it is a absolute pleasure to have you on for this movie. Back to the Future. Original release date July 3rd of 1985. Shares opening weekend with Red Sonja and The Lift. Production,
baby.
Red Sonja.
The worst movie out there of Arnold's catalog.
Red Sonja. I've never seen it. And
I thought it was a spin-off sequel to Conan the Barbarian because he was in it. So I thought Arnold was the spin-off. It was a completely different movie.
Back in them days, Arnold was the same person in their movie anyway, so you can say it was an unofficial sequel. Production budget was $19 million. Box office total was $388.8 million in 85. Damn.
$19 million was all that movie cost?
$19 million was the budget.
Wow.
Currently at a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, nominated for 4 Oscars, winner of 1 of best sound effects editing.
Fair enough. Doc Ock, is that too low? 96%?
It should be higher.
It should be higher.
Well, Doc, we'll start with you, bro. You began talking about the effects that this movie had on you way back then. Knowing that you were going to be on the show today, I assume you watched it within the last 24 hours. What is that experience like for you when you pop on the Blu-ray or the tape or the 4K? Well, however you watch the movie, what is that experience for you going through those moments with Marty and seeing Doc for the first time and Biff and all this bullshit and the mom? Like what do you still feel when you watch this movie?
When I watch it, like now I have it on digital too. So I just watched it on digital, like when I saw it for, I try to see it for the first time in my eyes, it still gives me chills to this day. It still gives me chills just to see Marty trying to play with the giant amplifier when he's like tuning his guitar, and like he gets blasted away from it, and then he tries to skateboard to school, or when he sees the DeLorean for the first time with the extra time circuits, the flux capacitor, everything, and then traveling from 1985 to 1955, and then seeing his parents 30 years ago as he was at the same age, through the clock tower, through all this, it still gives me chills every time I see that movie. And it's not just the first movie, it's also the second and the third film. Even the animated series I love so much. I thought it was so great. And then they had a video game that was released for the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and then the Xbox One.
Was really solid.
Yeah, that game was. I was from Telltale Games. Unfortunately, that production team is no longer in service. They went out of business a year ago or 2 years ago. I was glad to see the continuation of the story, and it takes like 6 months right after the third film. But yeah, just that film alone, the first Back to the Future film, was great. And to be fair, and to be honest, the first Back to the Future film wasn't my first movie. It was actually Part 2 was my first movie.
What?
Yeah.
You're ridiculous.
Doc Ock, it's me and you, baby. We're going all the way home with it, baby. Thank you. I knew I wasn't weird.
Yeah. No, so let me explain to you. So when I was Back to the Future Part 2 came out when I was 2 years old. Okay? And for some strange reason, I remember that movie vividly. The Flying DeLorean, the hoverboard, Hell Valley, Biff Tannen as a dictator. That caught my attention. The DeLorean struck by lightning. That was crazy. That blew my mind as a 2-year-old kid. And then when the third movie came out, I actually got to see it in theaters.
Wow.
Yes, I was 3.
It dropped the next year, or really like 6 months later, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it came out 3 years, because I saw Part 2 on VHS, and then I saw the third film in the theaters. I was 3 years old, and that movie, like when they go through the West, I thought it was just crazy. I thought it was so cool. When
you saw the first one, didn't see the flying car until the end. We were like, "What's up with this bullshit?"
Listen, now, Doc Ock, listen, man, we're vibing right now because I just told Dave even before you got on. I said I feel like I'm letting the center folks down because I feel weird about it because my introduction to the whole concept of Back to the Future was the second movie. So when I think Back to the Future, I think the hoverboard, I think the flying DeLorean, I think of Biff as a dictator. I view that. So technically, this is the first time I've been watching the first movie. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the DeLorean flies. Why hasn't it flown yet? And then way at the end, I'm like, oh, I've never seen this movie. We are with it.
Yeah, no, I was like that too. I'm like, I was like that. I was like, wait, when does the car fly? When does the car fly? And my mom says, oh, it doesn't start flying till the end of the film. Okay,
Like sitting there, like, what the fuck is this? I'm pretty sure
it flies, right?
Yeah.
Even when he first takes off
on a T-shirt. We should put that on a T-shirt. I'm dead serious.
I'm pretty sure that flies. But no,
sure the DeLorean flies.
It's a scene when the dog's name again was
Einstein.
Yeah. When Einstein is in the DeLorean and he's doing the thing, I'm like, cool, all right, I remember that. But then when the people show up and they gotta take off, and Marty's driving, I'm like, at any time now you can you can take off, you know, and it never took off. Like, the fuck is this shit about? I just want to take off. So I'm so glad that I wasn't the only one. But there are things about this movie that makes it super 80s. Like this is 80s down to your drawers. It's like Huey Lewis in the News and that song.
The power of song, baby.
While it's the opening number of the movie, or the opening song of the movie, Marty plays the same song at the talent show audition and didn't get it.
I was laughing too hard when Huey Lewis says, "I'm afraid you're too darn loud, bro." He's singing, playing your song. You know.
He's like, "Listen, nah, y'all cut that. We're good. No, we're good. It's all right."
All right, let's get into this movie. It's 1985. Everybody knows this. This movie kicks off with like this clock ticking sound kind of coming in, and you see a whole bunch of different shaped clocks literally made in the 1980s. When you see a kid start plugging into this amp, what looks to be a guitar. This is our hero, Marty McFly, played by the legendary Michael J. Fox, who literally made his career off this movie. And
Can I just say that Michael J. Fox has one of the most iconic voices in movie history. Like he sounds like a kid. He sounds like a teenage boy. Like
now, funny enough in this, Michael J. Fox was born in 1961. He's a year younger than my parents. His father in this movie is played by Crispin Glover. That actor was born in 1964. He is 21 years old in this movie. And he is playing father. So if you're not weirded out already with this, don't worry, because everything is screwy with this movie, which is what makes it so great.
I have questions. I have questions for the Back to the Future expert below us today, because there are themes in this movie. I'm like, that's not right. That shouldn't be a thing.
Explain incest to me. So as he gets ready to jam out, you see this huge fucking amp. And I mean, when I tell you that the center of this amp is about 9 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and that itself is going up to the ceiling, you know something awful is getting ready to happen. And of course, he cranks everything up to 11. Of course, he does the Spinal Tap thing. He cranks everything. I do not know how his bones did not break from the sound of it alone, because he is not standing far away. It's not like he's standing like 20 feet away getting ready to play this thing. This motherfucker is 3 feet away from the fucking head.
And like blaring it. I'm like, what the hell?
I mean, you are hearing the electricity. I'm like, bro, you're gonna go deaf. Like you're gonna have perforated eardrums. You know, you're gonna have a concussion from not being able to think clearly. Hey
man, it's 85. We're not thinking about that type of shit. We're trying
to
rock out.
Yes, he was a teenager, so he's vulnerable.
It's the 80s. Nobody thinks about, allergies.
STDs. What?
And he goes and he jams his thing, and of course the amp blows up and he goes flying back. Not nearly far enough in my eyes. He should have flown back a good 300 feet. That dude should he should have been gone. He should have been obliterated. He should have been Dr. Manhattan for all I know. When he gets a call from a Dr. Brown, as we come later to find out, played by the wonderful Christopher Lloyd, which I am still shocked that motherfucker's alive, because he looks like he's about 70 in this film. He looks like he's like 70 in this film, and I'm like, and you're still around, huh? Like,
good. Is he around? He's still fucking working. He's a nobody. Like, he's still working.
Good for him. I wish I didn't have to, but good for him. The
effects of the driving a DeLorean does have its pluses.
Unless you hear him on the phone, Doc sound like he's on a tremendous amount of cocaine. Unbelievable amount of cocaine. Like, calm down.
Like Jay texted me today. He's like Doc Brown's on a serious amount of cocaine. I was like, or at least LSD.
At
like,
least LSD. He said,
like imagining and painting it in his own mind. Like I'm not sure cocaine can get that kind of reaction. I'm not sure it can, but I'm not the expert. So, anyways, so he is told to meet him at 1:15 in the morning at 2 Pines Mall.
Twins Pine.
real quick. Also, would this be my first time watching the movie? The family dynamic in that opening introduction to the mom and dad and everybody. The family dynamic. When I talk about, I sat there and I had tears in my eyes from laughing so hard because number one, the movie going way back to the beginning, the election picture of the mayor is hilarious. It's the funniest shit ever.
What do you think in Not Another Teen Movie, they made the character look exactly like the mayor?
Oh my God. But for me, man, when she comes out with the cake, which was supposed to be the celebration he's out cake, Uncle Joey's still locked up. I died. Like, it was so funny.
It's a fucking blackbird leaving a cage that like he's a jailbird. I'm like,
but she says, "This for Uncle Joey. He didn't make bail." I'm like, where the fuck are we going with this movie? Like, I was so lost and confused. I'm like, Uncle Joey's still doing time? Oh my God.
Hold on. Here's what I love about this. Like, I just want somebody to have a cake ready for me whenever I get out of jail. Like, I want it to be ready for me. That's how loved I want to be. Like, I could get away with murder. You know, I could kill somebody, and I expect my closest friends, Jay, you included, to come out with a cake, jailbird, with a picture of
Dave,
jailbird. You know,
you my boy. I will get you a cake that literally depicts exactly what you did to get put in jail. Welcome home, Dave. Because you like.
Jay's gonna have like the court picture of me sitting there in cuffs on the cake itself, you know, saying
like the court sketch when when it's court TV sketches. This is Dave with orange jumpsuit on with his cuffs on, like, welcome home, Dave. Time back. So,
and you're correct. I said 2 Pines. It was Twin Pines Mall. That's my apologies for that. So, as Marty decides to kind of make his way, actually, before that, we have to get introduced to Biff and the cowardly father of George. And
cowardly is that's light.
That
chill out, bitch.
Hello, McFly. Like, I love doing that to my niece. Every single time she gets like a question wrong on a test, I just start knocking on her head and just say, hello, McFly. She has no idea what I'm doing. She's never seen back.
You know what? Just imagine for a second. Just imagine, let's say you're Marty, right? And you walk in, you see this guy that clearly knows your father, but in front of you, belittling your father, making fun of him, making him feel like half a man, and you just standing there like, the one problem I had with the movie was like, here's the thing, bro. I get it, comedy, haha. There's no way I'm going to watch you belittle my dad in front of me. Like, I'm kicking your ass off top. I'm just saying. But in Hill Valley, things kind of go a bit different.
Jay, you're taller than Marty. All right.
Fair enough.
But you're still taller than Marty, you know. So I get it. You know,
my voice travels. Marty's very childlike.
I get it. You drink some confidence, and then you feel like you could take on Biff. Biff is like 6'2", you know, and he's a truck. Like
he's a big 6'2".
He's a big 6'2".
He's a big 6'2".
6'2" look like 5'10". All right.
Yeah.
So you're probably gonna let him get away with the hello McFly, but you be talking shit afterwards. Say that right.
Since walk, wait, pussy.
Oh, I knew I was going to have a fun day for this episode.
I do want to because we're now when Marty meets up with Doc at the mall. Was it 118
talent show, right?
Huh?
First he does a talent show, right?
Okay.
Or at least tries to audition for it. And he goes and he jams out trying to do Power of Love. And of course he gets rejected because it's too loud.
Why is this big ass amp here if it's too loud?
like I'm too loud. Like what did you want? Did you want Earth Angel? Because I could do Earth Angel. Like Earth Angel.
I can rock out.
Yeah.
No, this is the 80s.
And,
Of course.
yeah. And the great thing about it is right after the talent show, Marty is bummed out. However, Jennifer just motivates him. Hey, you're a great performer. Just don't let one rejection, make the end of the world for you. So it's like a motivation thing. And then they also talk about they're trying to do like a camping trip. And then that's where we also get to see the Save the Clock Tower lady who I forgot the actress's name, but she did passed away last year. So for that, but then that's where we get to meet Marty's family. So you get to see George, getting bullied by Biff even 30 years later. Biff is just pretty much telling them just to do.
Oop, did you cut out?
Yeah,
Yo, can't hear you. You just cut out, bro. What happened to him?
Can you hear me?
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Now where was I? So what was it? Yeah, Biff just basically just telling George to do his work while Biff did set a car accident with George's car and blames George for the car accident. Talks about yeah. And he says, I spilled beer on this coat. I'm like, bro, you're not supposed to drink and drive,
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a hard PG. This is a very hard PG.
No, this is like when somebody tells me PG, it's a 1980s PG. This is as 1980s PG as it gets. Like a 1980s like R movie is like the Cronenberg movies, right? This is like 1980s PG, where it's like, no, we're still cool with like talking about incest. We just can't show it.
Yeah. Yeah, like a hard 1980s PG movie. I think you could use the word fuck only once.
Yeah,
so
Marty gave you 3 shits and a son of a bitch within like 10 minutes. Well, all right.
Yeah.
Like you called your friends like back then. Nowadays, it's all like bud, champ, and pal.
Yeah.
So that night, Marty meets his eccentric scientist friend, Emmett Doc Brown, in the Twin Pines parking lot. And Doc unveils that he's built this time machine from a modified DeLorean. And you want to talk about a car that there's very few cars in cinema history that I feel like can equate themselves to a DeLorean. I think of the original 1989 Batmobile being one of them.
Love that car.
It's a fucking fantastic car. I also would say that the Tumbler Batmobile that they use in the Nolan movies, well, maybe a step below, definitely had its fans. You didn't care for the Schumacher Batmobile with the nice little like psychedelic LSD show in the middle in the grill. That shit is sexy. No, man, no.
It was okay. It was okay.
I don't.
But I did like the Batman Forever Batmobile though.
I don't care for church stained windows Batmobile. No. Glass stain.
My Batmobile is a Cadillac.
Right, the Cadillac. Knight Rider is one that I think of, which was an entire TV show based upon that, which was huge.
That Trans Am, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. The Mach 5, how you mentioned Speed Racer.
Buick Sentra.
Optimus Prime is probably another one, but the DeLorean definitely has something because it feels like it's kind of like, I feel like it's the car for it's the car for the Mazda Miata guys of the world, right? It's nice enough to want to be sought after, and it's probably cheap enough back in the 1980s before this movie dropped for you to be able to buy. Can
you imagine how an old player would be like? Go to a girl with this, of course, it's gray DeLorean. Like, hey, that motherfucker can fly too.
Hey,
I like the fact that they
Hey, girl,
used
you ever
the
want to
DeLorean.
make a mistake?
You want to fly to dinner? I could do that. That's right. I got to touch base on this real quick because we're now where we get the physical appearance of Doc, and Doc is just this huge burst of energy, and I'm just like, he's really like, he has to be high. He goes, pulls up and Marty, you grab this, and Marty, all this cool shit, Marty, look, like, bro, relax, like you're so beyond hype, it's nuts. And I also love the fact that this movie is the clear blueprint for what we now know as Rick and Morty. Like, yeah. I love that. Like, I love everything about that.
Of course. And of course, season 5 is getting ready to drop here in June, which I am totally stoked for. I cannot wait. So this time is powered by plutonium, which is not from Pluto, that swindled from some Libyan terrorists. And you kind of...
Libyan nationalists.
Libyan nationalists. But later on, they were referred to as terrorists. So, you know, in case you want to equate what a nationalist and a terrorist is, hey, what do you know? They're kind of one and the same. So anyways, Doc inputs a death station initially for November 5th, 1955, which is the day he first conceived his time travel invention. And the way that he conceived his time travel invention is that he was standing on his toilet when a clock fell on his head, and when he woke up from his unconscious, concussed brain, as you can clearly tell, maybe he doesn't know how to diagnose himself, but he has a huge mark on his head afterwards. He got this image of what the flux capacitor, which is how time travel is able to work, is. And it's kind of a weird, it's basically a Y with some electricity kind of going through it, which sure. And so I'm sure plenty of scientists looked at that and tried to make the same thing happen. Of course, the terrorists arrive and unexpectedly and open fire. But I want to talk about when this fucking car goes into the future for the first time, because it's a moment. It may actually be my iconic scene, because he goes and he tells Einstein to get in the car. The problem is that Einstein at no point has to be in this car. There's no reason for Einstein to be in the car because the car is being remote controlled. So it's not like he's going to ask Einstein to, be okay with whatever. He could have kept the clock there this whole time. No problem. Because it was a separate little watch and could have showed that he went to time travel, right? So he's just willing to sacrifice his dog.
Guinea pig.
I have a deeper question.
Go ahead.
How the fuck does Marty and Doc know each other? Take your time.
Well, according to Bob Gale, the producer and writer of Back to the Future, Marty at that time was kind of like a mischievous kid, and I guess he accidentally was close by Emmett's Doc's property, and they said, do not be associated with this guy because he's a dangerous man. Marty is kind of a mischief person. So he says, let me meet this guy. And that's what basically the origin story was, that Marty got to meet Doc in his property and they became friends ever since. That was according to the producer, Bob Gale. He said it was also based off a TV show of Leave It to Beaver, where the youngest character named Beav met an old guy in the park and they became friends instantly. He says that's a tribute to that, that as well. That's how, yeah.
This is why we don't start caring about our children until way later in life, because y'all letting y'all kids go and hang out with random people who do LSD in the broad daylight of a movie set, and it's like, great Scott, Marty, I'm so high right now. Let's do some cool shit. Like, Doc Brown should not be around.
That's why they call him a dangerous man in Hill Valley.
Because he figured it out. Look, everybody has an issue with them. Everybody has an issue. But if LSD is going to get this time travel going, then let's all do some shrooms, man. Like, let's go bug
Travel
out
to the future, Marty. Do these shrooms with me.
Give me a shroom by the name of Great Scott, and I'm ready to go. Let's do
A
it.
shroom by the name of Great Scott must be fantastic. It must be just
right there.
that's a whole different thing. Like, man, I go to the moon and back. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, like, okay, so going back where it says where we got to see Einstein just started traveling towards the future, it kind of blew my mind when I saw it. It actually creeps me out because I'm like, oh shit, is the dog gonna explode? That's what I thought, and
Why is he driving the car right to them? Like, what if he's off by, what if he's off by 10 feet?
Exactly. I was like, dude, what the hell? Are you crazy? That's why Doc Brown's kind of like a mad scientist. Also, if you watch Back to the Future now that's digitally enhanced, you could actually see the guy driving with the dog helmet.
Oh wow.
Oh,
it's so damn funny. It's just like, damn, Einstein turned into a man while driving the car.
Full arms and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Marty, of course, flees in the DeLorean as the Libyan nationalists decide to start shooting at him and inadvertently activating time travel and reaches 88 miles an hour. Now, as he's going, he's wearing a radioactive suit because, of course, they were handling plutonium, and the helmet of the suit kind of comes down, which sparks a bit of a funny reaction because as he bludgeons through this guy's farm, I can't think of his name. You probably got it.
Old man Peabody.
Thank you so much.
You know he know.
Yeah, I know he knew. That's why I said he probably.
Who's the third chick from the right that's in the school thing?
So as he kind of crashes through this farm, somehow causing no damage to the DeLorean because time travel. He gets shot at by these white people because that's what white people do. They just shoot at you in 1955. They don't really care what creed or color.
Back then, they're shooting.
They're shooting. So Marty, of course, runs over one of the pines and makes his way down when he realizes that he is, I think he's out of fuel. And so he decides to hitchhike, or not really hitchhike, but he decides to walk the 2 miles from where he kind of planted his car, at, back to Hill Valley. When he encounters, as he walks into a diner for the first time, and he encounters his teenage father, played by Crispin Glover, and discovers that Biff has been a piece of shit since high school, which, Marty, I could have told you that, bro. Like Biff wasn't the nerd, all right? Biff was the bully. You knew he was going to be the bully, right?
Classic bully, too.
Yeah. He was a hell of a bully. He kept doing the hello, McFly, back then. I'm like, you kept that gag up for 30 years?
You continue to take that?
That's dedication. Like an indent in the guy's head or whatever. Anyways, so as he kind of discovers this about his father, George falls into a path, and this was kind of expositioned a little bit towards the beginning of how the mom met George and how they actually fell in love. And in this case, George was a peeping Tom who fell into the middle of the road, where the father hits him with the car, knocks him unconscious. When they resuscitate him, he's basically in the bed, and Lorraine eventually falls in love with him. They fall in love with each other and have a whole bunch of kids. That is how that story plays out. Now, Marty, realizing that his dad's a creep, pushes his dad out of the way, gets hit by the car, and is then confronted by his mother and wondering where the fuck his pants are. Which is a legit question, Calvin. Absolutely a legit question. Where are your pants? Why are your pants?
Man, when I tell you,
At
man.
what point did your pants need to be removed? I don't know. Jay, if you woke up in some girl's bed with your pants taken, being referred to as Calvin, first off,
I would first confirm what all took place to get to this place. But
first of all, crazed white girl who winds up stalking you throughout the day.
then listen, man, nah, man. And this is Jay? Jay? No.
No. All right, fair enough.
Now, if I woke up and this young black woman happens to be my mother when she's young, like, I'm really high. I'm really high. Like, no, I'm not saying
Great Scott.
like smoking that Great Scott, baby. But but really, it's the hands down. This is the most uncomfortable I became watching this movie. I'm like, that's his mother.
Yeah, it is.
And she doesn't even. And mind you, this creates a whole bunch of plot holes for me as well, because you'll see later on in the movie when things kind of go back to normal. If you remember the dude that got you and your girl together, but that dude is your son.
Now, that's, I'm going to talk about that as we get to that point in the movie. How about that? So we can talk about that plot hole. So
That left me confused.
No, I hear you. So anyways, Lorraine's infatuated with him, and it's
Oh no, Lorraine wants to fuck. He's
man,
trying to fuck.
Ready. And she laid eyes, and it was a thirst. It wasn't even a thirst. It was a desire. It was a pit in her stomach.
Stay with me. Lorraine is trying to fuck.
Calvin's penis, Marty's penis, could actually fill at that point. It was gross. Even now watching it, I was like, ugh. Could you stop?
It's funny because I had a serious. I was like, ugh. Ew. It's your mother, man. Stop this. It's not good. This isn't right.
Buy me dinner first? I don't know.
Oh, mom, cut it out. Hey, man, cut it out. You tripping
what
now.
kind of repressed feelings that come out in you? I'm just kidding. It's not repressed.
Ew.
Ew.
Well, you know what? I want to go back before Marty gets to meet his parents, where Marty was trying to go back to, his neighborhood, and it wasn't fully developed yet. So it's just crazy. Just all he sees are the gates of Lion Estates. That's the name of his neighborhood, and it wasn't fully built yet. And of course. And he tried to start the car, but he couldn't. And he says that there was no plutonium. The problem was the gas didn't fall, ran out of gas or nothing. During that time, a lot of people said that the DeLorean had trouble starting. Right. So those were one of the main problems of the DeLorean. That's why, it had so much problems with it. And of course, he had to hide it. And, old man Peabody owned a farm, and he had a crazy idea, more crazy than Doc, saying about he wanted to breed pine trees. So he did run over one of the pine trees. So when we get to see later on during the movie, instead of calling it Twin Pine Small, it's Lone Pine Small. So
right.
So that's kind of crazy about that. But when you get to see his parents, for the first time, it's funny because when he says, "You're George McFly," well, yeah, who are you? He was this close to say, "I'm your son." Right. Good thing Goldie Wilson was there to talk to George. I'm like, oh, thank God. He was like, you know how much your future would have been fucked up if that happened,
So Marty tracks down a younger Doc, which looks the same as the older Doc, just with shorter hair.
Just ages like bad milk.
Right. And convinces him that he is from the future. And how does he convince him? He basically tells the story of how he would literally discover time travel. So, full circle. Now Doc knows how he discovered time travel 30 years ago from way back then, how it's fully explained out to him. So it gets the ball rolling a little bit. So He explains that the only source capable of generating the required 1.21 gigawatts of power time travel is a lightning bolt. And so Marty shows Doc a flyer from the future that documents an upcoming lightning strike at the town's courthouse, the same one that would later knock out. Marty's siblings begin to fade from the picture that he is carrying with him. And the reason why is because Lorraine's infatuated with Yo Dick. She don't want George right now. She ain't on the George train. So
he pretty much encountered both of his parents.
Right.
So he kind of caused a ripple effect.
Exactly. So he and Doc realize that Marty's actions are altering the future and jeopardizing their chances to exist. That Lorraine was supposed to meet George instead of Marty after the car accident. So early attempts to get them acquainted is pretty bad. They basically do recon on George, and if you thought he was a dweeb at first, no, this guy is a full bona fide loser. Like, I don't know who.
Even the nerds pick on him. Yeah.
Oh my God. like the nerds were literally like, yo, I play Dungeons and Dragons and you suck. Like it was pretty bad. They're like, what are you doing? Still playing with Pogs and marbles or whatever? Like,
what year is this? Where are we?
I don't know what they're playing in 1955, right? So
we're at the place where Lorraine asked Marty to the school dance, right?
Yeah.
No, not yet. Not yet.
We're not there yet?
But he's been trying. Marty's been trying George to help, connect with Lorraine to go to the dance.
The lost cause, which we've now discovered at this point.
Right. But he has no other choice. But Marty has to wear the radiation suit to pretty much say, take Lorraine out to the dance or I'll melt your brain. There is actually a deleted scene with that dialogue. There is a deleted scene where that entire dialogue where Darth Vader from planet Vulcan tells George to take Lorraine out to the dance.
Huh.
It is, and it's kind of mentioned. It is mentioned in the movie that because of course he comes running out of his house. George comes running out of his house when he sees Marty, and he is just like, "Oh, hey, Darth Vader just told me from the planet Vulcan, about this crap." And it's kind of one of those that probably could have been to cut that out in some way, shape, or form, but we get the idea from here. So,
what cracks me up in that scene where he just talks to Marty, he kind of looks a little bit like Shep Howard. Just his mannerisms, his hairstyle. I'm just like, hey, where is Mo and Larry?
Right.
So, yeah.
So we're at the part where Lorraine does ask Marty to the school dance. So we get at this point to where his plot is to shut down all the inappropriate advances that Lorraine is pretty much on. Lorraine makes it clear as day. She wants his dick. Like, let's just make it. It is what it is.
And they don't even make it to the dance. Like normally what's supposed to happen is
get in the car.
She's
getting all the action.
Park. We'll just park and talk. That was the 1950s version of Netflix and chill.
Yeah, but they're supposed to go to Lover's Lane afterwards or whatever.
There's always a Lover's Lane in these places.
Before they go to the Enchantment of the Sea dance, George was trying to take Lorraine out, and then Biff kind of butts in. Then we have Marty knocking down Biff, and then they have this cool skateboard scene that we forgot to mention. Mm-hmm. This is where I just thought it was really cool. And of course, this is where Lorraine is infatuated with Marty much more because of his skateboarding skills,
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's young, he's handsome. He wears other men's name on his underwear, Yeah. And purple. And Biff is obviously pissed off because as he crashes his vehicle, 300 pounds of shit literally falls into his vehicle, which caused him over $300 in damage. That is,
I love because that randomly placed thing of shit just happens to be there. Right.
Of course.
And of course, for good old gag's sake, you're gonna drive right to that good old thing of shit, and all the shit's gonna fall on you.
Yeah.
So
tons and tons manure on that damn car. I felt bad.
you get your the whole way that George winds up actually getting Lorraine is a little hilarious because it was about as 1950s as you can get. You get your goddamn hands off of her. It's like, like you can't sound tougher than that. Like this is the 50s. Like,
colonizer.
Yeah.
So of course, this allowing George to kind of do this, and the plan goes awry. Of course, with two things. One, Lorraine goes for it, and I mean she goes for it, lunges and basically pins Marty down, and winds up planting one on him, and you could just see the look of horror on her face. You know, like afterwards, she was like, it was like kissing my brother. And I'm like,
yeah.
Like,
a little deeper than that. You're a child, but I get it. It's weird. I get it.
It's like, no, I totally get it. Like it's got to be gross for him also, you know. And Biff winds up interrupting and locking Marty in the trunk of the performing band's car.
Marvin Berry.
Marvin Berry's band, you know, the cousin to Chuck Berry, of course.
Yes.
And Biff decides to kind of force himself onto Lorraine. Now, here's where I have a problem with this film.
Full-blown rape.
Oh.
Full-blown. I'm going to put my fingers in your booty. This is rape. This is rape.
No.
Can you say sexual assault? Please say sexual
Thumb in
assault.
the ass rape.
Oh, God, don't say that word.
It was as sexually assaulty as it could get. And
Thank you.
he was still employed later on with this family. Like, what? like, was he the only dude who puts 2 coats of wax on your car afterward? I don't understand that. Anyways, so of course, forcing himself on there, George arrives. Hey, you get your goddamn hands off of her. Expecting to find Marty. And Biff comes out and basically nearly breaks his arm, like gets him into arm twists and whatnot. And Biff has his Hulk out moment. And when I mean, or I'm not Biff, George has his Hulk out moment. And when I say Hulk out, he's in the arm twist. His arm's breaking up, but he's feeling it. He's feeling it, brother. He's feeling it. And his magic hand turns around and punches Biff so hard that he turns the wrong way when he falls back into the car. So, you know. But
movie magic, damn it.
It's the magic hand. The magic hand that he was able to knock out Biff with one blow.
Because in real life, Biff would probably stomp his teeth in.
No, the arm is broken. Not only is the arm broken, but he's getting curb stomped afterwards. Biff is a strong 6'2". So he, of course, escorts a grateful Lorraine to the dance. And the band frees Marty from the car. But, of course, in the process, the lead guitarist is injured. So if the band can't play, then they need somebody to step in and basically take his place. So Marty, with his awesome guitar skills, decides to take his place and performs while George and Lorraine share their first kiss. And there's a little bit of drama when, like, it looked like another dude was trying to step in and try to get Lorraine to dance with him. But, you know, the good old George with his now Biff punching hand, you know, is basically like, hey, you get out of here, clown. Like, no, get out of here. She's mine. And they share their first kiss, and the future is no longer in jeopardy. So, and Marty begins to play songs. He starts out with playing Earth Angel, and he kind of finishes the evening with a wonderful rendition of Chuck Berry's A Colonizer.
He goes full on Chuck Berry. He's going full Chuck Berry. He's kicking in the he's going full Chuck Berry.
Yeah, Johnny Be Good. That was the
Johnny Be Good, and the whole crowd's like,
they're feeling it. Like, they're like, yeah, man, like this is going. But as he continues on with this insane like guitar riff, like everybody's like, what the hell are you doing?
That's what friends are like.
Right.
Yeah, well, like he did.
This is too new. Got it. Never mind.
If you paid attention to his guitar playing, of course, he did a little bit of homage to Chuck Berry, Pete Townsend, Jimi Hendrix, and a lot of guitar shredding guitarists throughout the 70s and 80s. I think he had a little bit of trying to say Jimmy Page or something like that, but a lot of rock gods who play the guitar. But that was pretty cool. And then you could see how the people are kind of freaking out because he went from like this 1950s rock, and then he just started thrashing like into 80s metal, and it just started throwing people off, and that's what made that scene so hilarious to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Marty, though, has one final concern, and that is what is going to happen to Doc. And it makes sense. Marty needs to find a way to warn Doc about the future, and they're worried about the consequences to do so. And an argument kind of ensues between them because they fucked up the timeline already so much, that now, instead of having the timeline that's messed up, you have the ability to change the future in this case, which is exactly what happens. Marty's timeline changed so much that he actually changed the lives of probably like 5 to 6 people easily, and that's not including anybody else that might have been affected from the dance in the first place. He is also the direct inspiration to Chuck Berry, which now you could say, well, Chuck Berry never discovered how to figure out this music, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. When deciding to kind of do so, Doc was adamant about not happening. So he writes a letter, kind of shoves it into a pocket, kind of does other things, kind of do so. And at the last moment, he says, wait a minute, I can go ahead and just change the time of when I'll be back. So he decides to give himself an extra 10 minutes. I don't know why. I don't know why he didn't give himself like 15 minutes. I don't know why he decided that 10 minutes was enough time. I don't know why he decided to jog his way to Lone Pine Mall. Like he really could have been like, okay, we're back. I'm coming back in give me like a half hour so I can go ahead and kind of stretch and do a slight walk back to the Lone Pine Mall. Maybe he was worried. Maybe he wasn't. Doesn't really matter though. So, in the process, this hilarious scene kind of ensues where Doc is basically just trying to get his way to connect the clock, to connect the lightning rod, clock, to kind of zap down everything. And when I say hilarious, it really is. Like the thing falls onto his leg, and so he's trying to lift up his leg, and then it falls off his leg, and he's all like, "Oh shit," and he decides to kind of slide down, pick up the rod that's been knocked, picked up the plug that was kind of knocked down, and decided to hop in and kind of connect everything right back. And as he connects right back, of course, the lightning strikes. He hits it. Boom. The DeLorean's gone. Doc is somehow not dead.
He's not dead. No.
Because that was minimum 1.21 gigawatts of energy that coursed through him. And I don't care if he's wearing rubber. I don't care if he's wearing rubber. No. You would have felt that. You would have felt every moment of that.
He was wearing gloves.
He's fine. He's wearing gloves. All right. And of course, as he gets down, Marty immediately books it to
Lone Pine Mall.
I was going to say single. It's Lone Pine Mall, and he arrives as Doc is being shot. Because he didn't give himself 10 minutes, or because he only gave himself 10 minutes. Marty grieves at his side, and then Doc sits up, revealing he pieced Marty's note back together and wore a bulletproof vest. Mind you, pieced it back together with no tape marks or whatnot. It's just an old yellow
glue, no
paper
string, just
whatever. And he takes Marty home and departs to the future in the DeLorean.
Okay. So now the putting the piece of paper together. Now it's like That's another plot hole because you ain't got no tape. But it is what it is. The next morning, Marty wakes up to discover that his father. I love the rebel of this movie. His father is now successful, a confident author. His mom is fit and happy. Which, by the way, Leah Thompson, I love her. But to me, she will always be Dennis the Menace's mom.
Well, also, let's not mention Marty's siblings because Dave is now was working in in a fast food chain, and now he works in an office. And Marty's sister couldn't get a boyfriend. Now she has like multiple boyfriends now.
Right.
I forgot the sister's name, but the actress her name is Wendy, and unfortunately she passed away back in I think 2003 due to breast cancer. So, but yeah, not only did Marty's parents were successful, but his siblings were successful as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. And as we also get Biff, who is just starting his second coat of paint on there. Why he's employed, I have no idea. But that is a story that will be explored in the second one, of course. And Marty reunites with Jennifer when Doc suddenly reappears in the DeLorean and insisting they return with him to the future to save their children from terrible fates, which is news to Jennifer. Like Jennifer's like
news to me.
Right, like, I'm sorry, what? Like, we're gonna have kids, and our kids are gonna be fuck ups. So why do I want to have kids? Like, why do I want to have kids?
That's news to me. Like by the time they get into the DeLorean and DeLorean like takes off, like, oh, this is where I get introduced to Back to the Future.
Right, which of course you get the final and one of the greatest lines to the film, where they say, Doc, you don't have enough room to get up to 88 miles an hour. Mind you,
Roach
has no idea what's going on. No idea what's going on here. And he's up, and Doc says, where we're going, we need no room. And that's it. That's Back to the Future. 1985.
1985. 2 years before I was born. Back to the Future's going down. Let's kick off takeaways with Doc Ock. Doc, who's getting your That Guy award?
I'm going to give it to Marty McFly. Just Michael J. Fox, performance in this film. I thought, he was a teenager. This was a typical 80s movie where a teenager in the 80s gets to meet his parents the same age he was in the 50s. And it was his responsibility trying to have his parents to be together as teenagers, not only to save his existence, but also his siblings as well. So he was the guy. He also did something that no teenager could have done, in pretty much in the 80s. He was kind of cool, even for a small person. He was a skateboarder. He was a rock star. What more can you want in a 17-year-old kid?
Absolutely. Who's getting your That Chick award?
For that My Chick award, I think I'm going to give it to probably Jennifer Parker, Marty's girlfriend, because without her, she says, "Hey, do not give up on your dream because of one rejection." She also wrote down the phone number for the flyer, which helped Marty find a way to take him to the future. So, yeah.
That Full award.
The Full award. Which one is that one again? I'm sorry.
Your least favorite character.
Least favorite character.
Okay. It's I don't want to say Biff. I mean the part with trying to sexually assault Lorraine. That one probably sucks. But I would say the Libyans. I really didn't like the Libyans that much. Because it's just like, okay, you got a machine gun, you kill Doc, and I'm like, that's a pretty hardcore PG scene right there. Just like
they're pushing the PG. Parental guidance for everybody.
that was a little messed up for me. So I'm like, I'll probably put the Libyans there. I mean, I like Biff. I mean, just the one part I don't like is where he's trying to sexually assault Lorraine. But I'd probably go with the Libyans.
Cut that out.
Cut that out. Pretty much anything with Lorraine just trying to luring on Marty. Just having like...
You don't like that incest action? Nah? Me neither. It's disturbing. I can tell you that for sure.
We ain't here to promote Pornhub, okay?
Like, you don't get down with the incest love?
You're not really big on stepsisters and stepmothers?
Man. Does it hold up? Well,
I
think this asking a fan like you was a pretty obvious question, but does the movie hold up?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It does hold up. I mean, okay, 35 years have been passed since the release of this movie, and it's just like, okay, each a decade is different. I'm glad that Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale doesn't want no reboots of this movie at all. It's one of those movies that you should not reboot it because it has a great message no matter what era it is. I thought it's one of those movies that still hold up. You know, a lot of people who I know as teenagers who say that was a great movie. They've seen it for the first time when they were like 13 or something. I think it was a great movie. It affects everybody. And I've talked to teenagers or young teenagers, and they say, "Oh man, that was a great movie." You know, they say, I like how it is. You know, I don't care if it's from the 80s or anything like that. I thought it was a great movie, you know. Right. But yeah, it's one of those movies that still holds up, and it's not always about, it's always about time periods. It's just the message that it spreads around. So it's one of those movies that really does hold up to this day.
And last but not least, iconic scene.
Clock Tower.
Word.
Just the clock tower scene. Here's the funny thing, because when Doc tells Marty to go to the start line, and like it's already like the 10 o'clock mark, and it's supposed to hit 10:04 where the lightning bolt strikes the clock tower. Here's the funny thing. I timed that shit on numerous occasions, and I'll get like a 6-minute mark, a 8-minute mark, 6:45 mark. I'm like, wait, so it wasn't really 10:04 minutes, you know? It's just like one of those things. As a freaking nerd, it's just like, okay, was it really like 4 minutes of that scene? You know, that's how much of a nerd I was.
Right. Yeah. All right. So Danger, that guy worked.
I'm gonna give it to Doc Brown. Doc Brown, because his LSD figured out time travel. Doc, in a lot of ways, while Marty may be the person that carries a story, Doc, I feel, is the person that you feel like you're watching the most anytime the two of them are on screen. And that's a shout out to Christopher Lloyd, because being a much older actor and just kind of carrying every scene that he possibly could in this. I mean, Lloyd is 82 now. So if you take 35 years, off of that, you're talking a guy that, who's 47 years old, and he killed it. Like everything about this movie, he killed it. You almost picture it's the reason why Rick is more popular than Morty. Like Rick is kind of the crazy asshole, scientist, and you can't help but like picture genius every single time. It's why he works so well. He's so eccentric that you can't help but keep your eyes on him. And I like Marty plenty. It's just I really, really, really enjoy Christopher Lloyd's character in this.
That's your Gord. It's
going to go to Lorraine, because shoot your shot. And when you realize that your shot wasn't what you were supposed to be getting, good on you good on you for realizing it's weird and to kind of break out of that and just say, you know what, something's off here. I'm gonna check out this other dude. Like, shoot your shot. You were ready. You were ready. You were ready to have babies right then and there. So shoot your shot.
No more than babies would have been all kind of that full of work.
Also, Lorraine, like, what are you doing? like what? It's so hard. This is 1955. Like, don't you have standards? The funny thing about this is why I love it so much, is because you can immediately tell. You can immediately tell that later on in the future, she kind of has this whole idea of how women should be. And, you shouldn't be like that kind of person. And it's like, yo, you were exactly that person at 17 years old. You were so eager to put yourself out there at 17 years old. So lesson learned, I guess. So, yeah. So my That Chick award is Lorraine, and my That Fool award is Lorraine.
Cut that out.
There is not a lot that I can cut out of this movie. It's a 2-hour movie, and it flows really, really well for a 2-hour movie. And I usually have a problem with anything that's literally over 2 hours. I'm like, all right, no, where can we start cutting? But this is one of those movies that you can throw on and kind of get the gist of it and the point of it. I don't really feel like there's any scene in there that you just feel like is unnecessary or doesn't add some value to it. For example, you'll find early scenes in the movie that has a role later on. The Clock Tower Lady is a perfect example of that. You know, there was a point to having that scene and it made sense later on. You know, right. Him showcasing Power of Love, you know, on the talent show, you know, and then later going crazy on his guitar may have actually sparked something within himself to realize that, you guys may not like it that much, but your kids are going to love it. You know, there's so much with this movie that is good that when you look at the bad, it's really not all that bad. Yeah, it's incest-like, and it gets poked fun at a lot. I think the best example of that really is Futurama, when he became his own grandfather, which is kind of what you would imagine kind of happening, right? But it makes sense, at least in that case. And it's poked fun at a lot. But part of the reason why it's poked fun at a lot and why there's the most popular animated series out there right now is because this movie was so beloved in the 1980s, and it really did not stop. I think what's crazy with this is that in ways you can put this movie in early 90s and maybe even like 1993 and still feel like it kind of holds its place a little bit, but you can also feel that this is very much an 80s movie, which is one of the reasons why I love this so much, because it's like it's not afraid of being that. It's not afraid of being a 1980s movie at all. And it showcased the 1950s in a light that was probably very realistic. For example, like the cafe owner calling the mayor, like we'll see a colored run for mayor, and you hear that language and you realize this is a PG movie. And it's like, no, that may have been actually really okay in the 1980s, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't really have to cut that out. I wouldn't really extend anything either. I think this is a really, really damn near perfect, 1985 film.
So do I dare ask, does it hold up?
Absolutely. This is actually probably one of those movies that's going to wind up being timeless. We're here in 2021, and even though I know this movie turns 36 years old this year, I don't see it ever getting old for someone like myself. Maybe for a younger generation, maybe, but for someone that kind of, I was born in 87, so this movie's 2 years older than me,
Yeah.
And to kind of see how much love and respect I still give to this movie. Like, I could probably just watch this movie 10, 15 years down the road and say, you know what? This is still a pretty kick-ass movie. That's how good this movie is.
And iconic scene.
I got to give it to the first time you see the DeLorean go through time travel, because you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea what's going to. The movie is called Back to the Future, and it probably has a time traveling mechanism, but when was time travel really discussed in the 1980s? Literally the 1980s. Like nowadays, we make fun with it. We deliver all sorts of different plot holes with Endgame, for example. That you're just like, oh wait, then this would happen. Everybody criticizes it. But back in the 1980s, this was literally one of those movies that you sat there afterwards and you're like, wow, this was a pretty all right explanation of how some of this stuff would really work out. Maybe it didn't necessarily go as deep as some people would like, but that's not what this movie's made for. This movie's not made for a huge scientific discussion. It just has a crazy mad scientist that decided to take one of his crazy ideas after a clock fell on him when he was taking a shit, and decided to kind of run with it, and that's what I kind of love about this. It's like it takes a really zany storyline, puts a lot of great characters together, and it turns it into a masterpiece. And it's fantastic. My God, Jay Alonso. Enough about me talking. Who's getting the Guy Award?
My That Guy Award is going to go to Doc Brown because he is ultimately your star. I mean, granted, Marty McFly is us. He's our everyman, but Doc Brown and the energy that he gives whenever he's around is so addicting. I need to see more of him, even if it is in fact LSD or a whole bunch of cocaine or whatever he's actually on that triggered this enormous amount of energy. And oh my God, Marty, where you sleep, Marty? Oh, I keep saying Marty. Marty, are you asleep?
I immediately picture Rick now. And
every scene, like, that's making Morty all day. And it's like he gets so hyped. Like, I got all this cool shit, Marty. Come check it out. And it's like I love his energy. He has great energy for sure.
Who's getting that chick award?
Lorraine, because she was gonna really make her own son a motherfucker.
Yep.
Oh shit! Oh god.
Put that on a shirt. Moving on. That full award. You would think I would give it to Biff, but Biff is designed to be an idiot, a fool, somebody like that. I'm not supposed to like this character at all, so I don't. I'd say it was a fool though. The principal.
I thought you were
Principal Strickland.
If you would say George, I would have been really okay with that.
He is such a hater because he's never had hair. And he makes it known that you're really jealous of Marty and his pops because they have hair. You don't have hair. You've never had hair. You were born bald. You're going to die bald.
Calling people slackers and shit.
But you have no hair. None.
Get the fuck out of here, Baldy.
Your head looks like a baby. Get out of here.
Get out of here, cancer patient.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Anyways, cut that out.
Oh man, that's hard. Like the cancer patient thing. Like I want to keep going with that. I'm like, nah, I'm never going to keep going with that. But I feel you though. Get out of here, cancer patient. All right, cut that out. I can't cut anything out, but this being my first time watching a movie, I really can't cut anything out per se. I thought it was ballsy to really have Lorraine try to fuck her son and really kind of keep that gag kind of going for a minute, which I found was like, oh, y'all are really gonna
like y'all are dedicated to this, aren't you?
You're very dedicated to this lady like fucking her own kid. But I have nothing I would cut out, but I would definitely expand more of the beginning lore of what we know as Back to the Future. I know, like me and Doc Ock, I don't know about this movie until the second one, but the way that this movie ends and it goes into the second one, and now, in my opinion, quite smoothly. It goes to the second one quite smoothly. So I have nothing to cut out. All it's really more just a game. You know what I mean?
And does it hold up?
Consider my first time watching it? Yeah, I'd watch this again for sure. Yeah. It's pretty simple. It's a simple premise, you know. I also love the fact that Hill Valley not one time looked like an actual town. It looked like clearly a back lot.
It's just like a town square.
It's clearly like that's a mall. The whole town's a mall. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
And finally, iconic scene.
Iconic scene would be the opening with Huey Lewis in the news, and the fact that he grabs onto people's cars to get them fast on his board. When in actuality, you don't think about people just randomly just stopping and braking, and you run right into that shit.
That actually is an actual skateboard move. It's called skitching. And there's actually people that actually do that while they're skateboarding. They don't do it much now because they say it's very dangerous. And true story, while promoting this movie in Australia, there was a lot of people, young people especially in Australia, that were skateboarding, were skitching. And Michael J. Fox did like a PSA about please do not do what I do in the movie. It's too dangerous because if someone breaks, you're going to end up getting hurt. Yeah, but that's pretty much an actual skateboard move. It's called skitching. I wish they would change it to McFly just to name it after him, you know?
Hey, we don't do McFlies around here, man.
You better stop that McFlying.
We could have McFly out, for real.
Right, because it's called sketching, and I don't think everybody would get that term. So, you know? No,
not at all. I would say it's called grabbing somebody's bumper and run on a skateboard, but whatever.
Call it McFly. That's what I say.
It's called McFly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get to some quick hits here. Quick hits. Thing up. All right, so let me kick one off. In 2010, during a cast reunion, Michael J. Fox said that strangers still call him McFly constantly. Fox said the most remarkable instance was when he was in a remote jungle in a South Asian country of Bhutan, located between China and India in the eastern Himalayas. A group of Buddhist monks passed him, and one of them looked at Fox and said, "Mighty McFly."
Let's do this one. I like this one. After the film's release, body kits were made for DeLoreans to make them look like the time machine.
Man, the script was rejected 44 times before it finally got greenlit.
Apparently, Ronald Reagan was amused by Doc Brown's disbelief that an actor like him could become president, so much so that he had the projectionist stop and replay the scene. He also seemed to enjoy it so much that he even made a direct reference of the film in his 1986 State of the Union address, quoting, "As they said in the film Back to the Future, where we're going, we don't need roads."
Shut up, Ronald Reagan.
Shut up, Reagan.
Shut up, Reagan.
Old ass.
When Lorraine follows Marty back to Doc's house, she and Doc exchange an awkward greeting. This marks the only on-screen dialogue that Christopher Lloyd and Leah Thompson ever had, though they appeared together in 6 movies. One being Dennis the Menace.
Of course, you're going to pop that one out.
Of course you are. Crispin Glover has claimed to have seen the film only once shortly after its release. In contrast, Christopher Lloyd states that when he stumbles across a Back to the Future film while channel surfing, he often sits and watches it because he likes to watch himself.
All right,
can I throw some in here too?
What's up?
Throw in one.
Okay, so as you know, Eric Stoltz was originally cast to portray Marty McFly. However, in some scenes in the movie, you could still see a little bit of Eric Stoltz in there.
That's correct. In fact, so much so that Eric Stoltz in the film, because he filmed 5 weeks of this, which is insane, and to be dropped after 5 weeks of filming is a lot of money you just paid to a guy without ever getting like a credit he deserves. So anyway, so Stoltz would only refer to himself as Marty McFly on the set. That when he finally left, they told Christopher Lloyd, he said, "Who's Eric?" And he said, "Oh, I thought that guy's name was Marty."
Corny, but that's why he got fired.
That's why I got fired. That's right.
Yeah. Now, here's one more for you. According to Bob Gale, Johnny Depp auditioned for the role as Marty McFly. I looked through the notes and I said, Jesus, I don't remember that we read for Johnny Depp. So whatever he did, it wasn't memorable at all, I guess.
See, that's awful.
Yeah. Well, that's Back to the Future. And a place where dreams may come. Super big thank you to Doc Ock, Octavio Martinez Jr. Thank you for rocking with us today, sir. You have been all of a joy, man. If we ever squeeze out Back to the Future Part 2, you got to come back so we can experience not knowing shit about Back to the Future until the second one.
Mm-hmm, yeah? Exactly.
Where can they find you, man?
Well, you guys could find me on Facebook under the name Octavio Martinez Jr. I have a Twitter account called The Octavio Jr. Same thing on Instagram. I usually post. I really don't post that much on Instagram about myself, just like anniversaries of films.
Cut out again.
Cut out again. All right. Well,
yeah, that's fine.
Television episodes for like 30 seconds, and you could find me under the name The Movie Vato. Vato is a Spanish term for dude, so find me under there on Stardust. I haven't done anything in 2020 because I've been too busy working for the pandemic, but I'm going to try to make a comeback in 2021. And yeah, you guys can find me there on Stardust. If you have the Stardust app, find me in The Movie Vato.
The Movie Vato.
Yeah.
Danger Neff, welcome back. Stranger Danger.
Thank
Where can they find you, man?
I feel like this was a good episode to kind of come back on. I'm a big fan of the 80s. You can always find me Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at David Danger Neff. I'm the co-host here to Back to the Classics, and I'm pretty much the leader of this group at this point. I'm just kidding. No. You can find everything Beat Network Online.com for a whole bunch of crap that we have out there. If you're interested into donating to our cause, please make sure you scroll all the way down and click on the donate button. We'd be very, very happy to take your money and promote it to future stuff. We got a whole huge lineup of stuff, and there is something major I'm working on for Beat that I'm hoping comes through. There's a lot of work that's going to be in place between now and that time period, and we'll kind of see what happens there. But yeah, find me on there, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, David Danger Neff. You talk to me, and I'll talk back. My guy, Jay Lonzo, I'm happy to be with you, brother. Where can they find you?
Welcome back, man. Well, you can find me on other social medias. Well, no, I can't say that anymore because it's changed. On Instagram at official Jay Alonzo, on Facebook at Jay Alonzo, Twitter and Snapchat at Jay Alonzo. Of course, the Back to Classics Movie Talk page is up and popping. Jump on in there and join the conversation. FOH is back. FOH is finally back. We've been having some outlandish opinions from people. Man, jumping in there, join the conversation, jump on the Dragon. FOH every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, coming up later on this week, you will officially get the Back to the Classics Oscar prediction show starring myself, Duval, and the other Neff, Gwen Neff. Join us again for the Oscar prediction show. Looking forward to that as well. And we'll be back next week. 80s in April, all April long. Only 80s movies in April. Me and Neff gonna go hard all April, man. I can't wait. Welcome back, Neff. With that being said, we'll see folks next week. We're back with Ghostbusters next week. Oh, Ghostbusters! It's going down. Huge shout out once again to my man Doc Art below. I am Jay Alonzo. This is Back to Class. My man over there is
Danger Neff.
We'll see you good folks next week. Peace.
Peace.